Hello, lovely people. So I thought I'd come across by video today rather than by the written word. And today I want to talk about your health and managing your health, optimizing your health during this particularly difficult time with this coronavirus outbreak. So first, what I want to do is explain, when you hear about boosting your immunity. And I want to give you a bit of an insight into how my understanding is of the immune system, and it's slightly different to some of the other holistic practitioners out there. So in order to create a healthy body, which means a really healthy functioning immune system, well, the immune system is called such because it's a way of resisting alien stuff from coming into our bodies and, creating havoc. So having a healthy immune system is more than just taking great supplements. Obviously having a good diet is good, etc. So I never start with supplements. Those of you who know me know that I use supplements in very small amounts and very much for the particular individual. Obviously, in this unusual time, I am going to give you some suggestions about some supplements that you can use. But the thing that I will say from the absolute get-go is please do not put supplements in to a rubbish diet. If you put supplements into a stressed, toxic body, you will stress the body more. And this is because every single thing you put into your body, the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, has a message. And it's either a positive message or a negative message. And when you put supplements in, you are presenting yet another message. Now, that's absolutely fine if it's taken in the doses that the body can handle, and if the body is in an optimum place to actually be able to handle it. The majority of people that I see, certainly in the first session, are not in an optimal place to be able to absorb supplements. So actually what they end up doing is they actually stress the body more. They actually stress the liver because the liver has to break everything down. So you might be thinking during this outbreak that you need to be taking copious amounts of vitamins and minerals and all sorts of things. And like I said, I will go through some of my sort of absolute favorites that may be helpful. But we've got to prepare our vehicle. We've got to get everything in place. We've got to put all of our ducks in a row. So get ourselves in a place where we can actually use these vitamins and minerals in the right way, in a positive way. So how do we do that? So for those of you who follow me, this will be a bit of a reminder, but that is important. So the optimal situation for the body, well, we've got to start always with the cell, and we've got to remember that there has to be optimum conditions inside and outside the cell to have a healthy body. So what does that mean? Well, always to start with, we're looking at our water intake. Again, I may sound like a broken record, but it's crucial. So we're 70 to 80% fluid. We're 80% fluid in the brain. The problem we have with our modern day environment is that we are getting very, very dehydrated consistently. This is for a number of different reasons. We have a particularly challenging environment that we live in with pollution, advanced technology, satellite dishes in space, driving, flying, heating, Wi-Fi, and now more recently 5G. And what this does is it has a physically dehydrating effect on the body. So in order to counteract that, we have to have a really good water intake. The other thing we do is that we tend to rely on foods that are pre-packaged and don't contain much water. And we also tend to drink diuretics like tea and coffee, which actually pushes water out of the body. And we may also drink squashes, Coca-Cola, alcohol, which all have a negative effect on the body. They all require water to be able to break them down and get rid of them. So starting with water, 2 litres of water a day without fail. You may need to go higher than that depending on your exercise regime, depending on your stress levels, and depending on what you are eating. Never more than 2 pints in 1 hour or you'll flood the kidneys. So very important to spread it out. So that's your first thing. And what that does is it changes the conditions inside and outside the cell, because remember, we need those 4 aspects within the cell and outside the cell: temperature, oxygen, light, and pH, to be at the correct level. So we don't want the pH too acidic, we don't want too low a temperature, we don't want low oxygen levels, and we don't want a lack of light, because those are optimum conditions for viruses to grow. So viruses grow inside the cell and bacteria grows outside the cell. So these are parts of us. Often we have dormant viruses sitting inside our cells already, and we have all sorts of, things, floating about in our system, but it's whether the environment is optimal for it to multiply, and then that will cause symptoms because the body doesn't like it being there, and it'll cause a reaction. So we've got to start with the hydration. We then need to look at the diet. So we've got the drinking of the water, and obviously avoiding the drinks that impinge on that. And then we're looking at the foods. So when we're looking at the foods, we're looking at anything with a water content. So we're looking at vegetables, fruits, salads, soups, stews, brown rice, quinoa, anything that has a water content. You can also include roasted root vegetables. They're not massively hydrating, but they're not dehydrating either. Your very dehydrating foods will be chocolate, for example, which is presenting all the jugs with no water. Highly processed damaged fats, so things like chips, ready processed foods, dry packaged food that is processed, full of salt and chemicals and additives. I mean, you can probably just use your own initiative with that. So you're looking at lovely recipes that are things like curries, soups, stews, brown rice, vegetables, big salads, those kinds of things. If you want to have tasty foods like chocolate bars and treats and things, that's absolutely fine, but you've got to put it into an environment that's well hydrated. And obviously, I tend to recommend you do the 80-20 rule. So 80% of your week is that kind of healthiness, and then you have 20% where you have your cheese or your chocolate or your glasses of wine or whatever it is that you love to have. I don't believe in complete restriction because I don't think that's sustainable long term. That's a subject for another day though, really. So in terms of kind of preparing your vehicle, when you hydrate fully like that, you support the liver and the bowel. And remember that every day the toxins need to go via liver and out of bowel. That is what needs to happen. As soon as we become dehydrated, we affect the function of the bowel, because the bowel is the water reservoir for our body. As soon as the bowel doesn't work as well as it should, because its optimum function has been interrupted by the dehydrated picture, you create a backlog on the liver, and the liver now has more to deal with than it normally does. So it will now have to deal with a bigger toxic load, and that toxic load, depending on you personally, how it is manifested. It depends on your family history, your makeup. So you might dump it into the womb and have heavy periods. You might dump it into the joints and get arthritis. You might develop headaches and migraines. You might have problems with lung issues around hay fever, asthma. You might have more mental emotional issues such as depression and anxiety and those kinds of things. So how the body manifests toxicity is very personal to you. And if you're interested in understanding that more, then I would book in a call or possibly even a session to unearth your picture and really understand it fully so you know what to do going forward. So what else? So it's really what I'm doing here is kind of laying the foundation for how you can create space in your body, almost a sort of an environment that is creating balance, and it's also creating a wherewithal to be able to use different supplements or different added nutrients that you want to bring in to optimize your health even more. The immune system is very much connected to our lymphatic system, which is a series of glands and pathways that go throughout the whole body. If you think of the lymphatic tissue, you've got glands here, you've got lots of glands in this area, the tonsils, you've got the appendix, you've got lots of pieces of lymphatic tissue all over the body, and the lymphatic system is a very important part of your immune system. To keep the lymphatic system healthy comes again back to hydration, and it also comes down to movement, funnily enough. So the lymphatic system doesn't have its own pumping system the way the circulatory system does. So it does require movement for it to be able to really work well. So I would incorporate some kind of physical activity into your daily program. You can also do skin brushing and hot and cold showering, which is fantastic for clearing the lymphatics. Other naturopathic techniques that can be helpful can be castor oil packing, enemas, juicing, oil pulling. And if you want to know more about those, just get in touch and I will talk to you about those different elements. Some you'll love and some you might not love so much. Epsom salt baths are also good. Epsom salt foot baths are very good. These are all old-fashioned nursing techniques which help your system to clear. So when the lymphatic system isn't sludgy and is working well, it's going to really benefit your immune system. When the lymphatic system gets sludgy, you can actually tell, because my glands feel slightly swollen today, so you can actually jig them like that. So you're creating movement. The other thing is rebounding. Trampolining and rebounding is one of those small sort of rebounders. Very good for stimulating the lymphatics. Any kind of physical activity is also great for stimulating the lymphatics to clear. So imagine if you have a really healthy diet, a hydrating, swollen, healthy diet, rich in vegetables, some fruits, good quality protein, so chicken, fish, eggs, and sensible carbs like potatoes, quinoa, short grain brown rice are my favorites. I do recommend that you watch out for gluten and dairy, because dairy is very mucus forming, so it doesn't help the lymphatics. Makes the body very sludgy, lines the digestive tract, and particularly makes the bowel very sludgy, very mucousy, which means it doesn't eliminate as well as it can or should, and then that creates a backlog on the liver again. So avoiding dairy is really helpful. You can still have butter in moderation because it doesn't have the protein which irritates the body and causes the immune system to produce mucus to try to trap the protein. That's really what mucus is. It's the body's allergic or unhappy reaction to a food you've eaten, which is irritating your system. So the mucus traps the protein or the bacteria or the alien, whatever it is, and traps it, and then it comes out of the body. But it's difficult to get it out of the body. Anybody who knows you've got a snotty nose, when it gets really thick, or the mucus in the body, in the bowel gets very thick, and it can really be quite hard to get it out. You will get it out eventually, but it's just the body's reaction to foods that it finds challenging, to environmental toxins, and also toxins in food, etc. And actually even harmless food we can react to as well, or food that we consider to be harmless, just because the proteins are too difficult to break down and the body is already on the back foot, so it's struggling. And then you add in some challenging foods, a bit like a barrel that gets full, and then you add the challenging foods on the top, and hey presto, your body develops a food intolerance. Doesn't mean it's lifelong, by the way. Gluten is troublesome because the way they grow gluten now is in a way that uses a lot of pesticides, which are obviously very toxic for the body. But not only that, the protein in the gluten, in the wheat, has changed. And it's become much more challenging for the body to deal with, much more dehydrating, much more stressful. So again, if your barrel is quite full, if you've got a sort of big toxic load already, and then you put a lot of gluten in there on top, you could flip the dehydration picture and present symptoms. So it's not that gluten by itself is really bad for you, it's more that it's a combination of different factors that then reaches that tipping point, and then you get symptoms and develop food intolerances, aches and pains, health issues of different kinds. So gluten and dairy are really good to avoid. But again, if you do the 80-20, so maybe you say, I'm going out for lunch or afternoon tea, that's when I'm going to have my gluten and dairy or my chocolate bars or whatever. It's being disciplined with it, but also kind to yourself in the process, and making sure that you have a way of eating that you enjoy and includes your favorite foods. That's really, really important for long-term success, particularly if you're trying to lose weight or trying to reach a health goal, like have more energy, for example. So what have we covered so far? We've covered very much the physical, and obviously when we're looking at our health, we're looking at physical, emotional and spiritual, but I'm keeping very much physical at the moment. I'm keeping very simple in terms of preparing our vehicle with the most healthful, supportive diet possible, that stimulates our lymphatic system to help to clear using naturopathic techniques as well. And then when we've done all of that, when we've really started to address our diet and started to introduce some naturopathic techniques, some old-fashioned nursing techniques, when we've started to do some exercise, maybe, so movement, any kind of movement to create movement for the body and shifting of this toxic load, then at that point, we might consider introducing some optimum supplements. So some supplements that can support. But if we do the supplements, if we shove tablets in, day after, completely unconsciously, without making sure that we've got our 2 or 3 litres of water going in, without making sure that we've got a really supportive swollen diet, we are simply going to cause more stress. And what's likely to happen is you might feel better for a short time, but then you might go back to feeling the same as you did before, or even worse, you may actually trigger an outbreak of spots. You might get a headache. You might sometimes feel a worsening of your symptoms by taking the supplements, because what they're doing is they're adding to the burden that's already there. The liver can't cope, and it's basically saying you haven't cleared the liver properly, you haven't prepared your vehicle properly, you're putting the supplements in, and the supplements are asking your body to do something that maybe it just isn't in a position to do it right then. It's an added burden, an added strain, and we don't want that. We want supplements that are actually going to support our journey to feeling really, really good. So we want to really be conscious and mindful about shoving tablets in. We don't want to shove tablets in. We want to be very mindful about our approach, about how we use supplements for our optimum health. Now, a little aside here again with the coronavirus is that for viral activity to occur, again, you have to have exactly the right conditions for it to grow, for it to develop in the body. So they've actually done research in the past. Some very brave scientists have sort of injected themselves with horrible diseases like tuberculosis and polio and haven't actually gone on to develop them. And it's really to show us that it's the environment. It's not just about being exposed to it. It's, are you creating the optimum environment within your body that is protective? So let's just focus on the supplements that might be helpful at this time once you've done the first steps that I've just described. Please don't jump to the supplements. So the supplements I would recommend always in this situation where there is heightened viral activity going on the planet, and I would be choosing vitamin C. Ascorbic acid is pretty cheap, so hopefully you can manage to get 1 or 2 bottles in your cupboard. And at the moment, the research coming out is around this coronavirus is a sort of manageable dose of about 2 grams a day. For some patients, they have gone up to 20 grams a day. I do not and cannot recommend that without you being under supervision. So as a sort of balancing maintenance dose, I would look at about 2 grams. Typically with vitamin C, you can take it until you start to get loose stools. So for some people that could be 10 grams. Typically you'll get 1,000 milligrams is 1 tablet typically. So you might be taking 2 tablets a day. You might go up to 4 grams. So vitamin C can be very helpful. But remember, when you put that kind of dose of vitamin C into your body, 2 grams is not that much, but if you start going beyond that, is that it's going to create movement. So any kind of supplement like that is going to create movement. Now, when it creates movement, it's going to create a movement of toxins out of the cells. And if your routes of elimination aren't open, it's going to be very uncomfortable. So what do I mean by that? Your 4 routes of elimination are colon, lungs, skin, and kidneys. And it could put pressure on them if you haven't prepared your body in the way I've told you in the early part of the video. So when you put a large dose of vitamin C in, or any vitamin for that matter, it's going to create movement of something else. So you want to make sure your routes of elimination are open. So particularly in this case, we would be looking at bowel. So you might be looking at, well, with your lovely swollen diet, you'll probably achieve that because you've got your short grain brown rice, you've got your hydrating food. So the bowel won't be under pressure. It will be able to balance the fluids and be able to produce large soft stools with a gluten-free, dairy-free diet that is rich in vegetables, soups, stews, brown rice, etc. So that's a great sort of basis for the bowel. You can also use enemas. You can also, if you don't have any kind of inflammation in the bowel, like diverticulitis or colitis, you could do soaked linseeds. Again, inbox me for more information about that, but it's a dessert spoon of linseed soaked in water overnight and then swallowed whole. What they do is they very gently scour the sides of the bowel and help the bowel to clear. And the water content that they're held in is very moisturizing for the bowel, and the gel, it's the sort of gel-like consistency that's very healing to the lining of the bowel as well. So lots of bowel support. So when you put the vitamin C in, the liver can cope with it, it creates movement, and that creates a shift in the bowel. So you've got this sort of nice movement going on. Where you put it into a toxic body, it will create movement of toxins. That's what the vitamin C will do. And that could be quite uncomfortable if your bowel isn't optimal. So it might create a circulation of the toxins, and you could come out with some skin problems. You might find your energy levels drop. You might find you have more aches and pains. And if that happens when you take vitamins, then you know that you're putting the vitamins in too soon. You need to go back to basics and get your diet sorted out and get your body in a more prepared state, and then you can put the vitamins in. The other vitamins that are very helpful are the B vitamins. B vitamins are produced in our gut when we have a healthy bacterial level, and our healthy bacteria will produce vitamin B within our gut. But as you know, most of us are struggling to have a healthy gut, again because of our modern environment, our very dehydrated picture, and that increase in toxicity and acidity, which allows the growth of parasites, funguses, fungi, bacteria, and all sorts in the gut that we wouldn't normally have in there or don't want in there. So the B vitamins can be helpful to take as a group, very supportive to the immune system, very supportive to a healthy gut. And we know that a healthy gut will result in a healthy immune system. Probiotics, very helpful. Again, you've got different varying amounts and different levels. You can also use your diet. Things like fermented foods can be very good for helping with the gut function. But again, it's quite generalized because, you know, if you're unsure, please do give me a shout, because for some people the fermented foods are too difficult to digest because their digestive system is compromised at the moment. Doesn't mean forever, but at the moment. So we may have to start with a more gentle diet first. But if you have a fairly robust digestive system, you may be absolutely fine with fermented foods. Onions and garlic, again, if you've got a good gut, have lots of sulfur in them, incredibly detoxifying, which is why they're so good for the immune system. So often supplements and foods that are recommended for boosting your immunity are because they have a strongly detoxifying effect, and they usually have lots of antioxidants in them as well. And that detoxifying effect allows the body to come into a place of healthy balance, and therefore be able to ward off invaders or whatever's coming into the body. Other supplements that can be helpful are zinc, because zinc is very protective of all the mucous membranes, and the coronavirus seems to be affecting the throat and the lungs. So if we can really create optimal mucous membranes, so the zinc is very good for skin, both inside the body, so the lining of the membranes, but also the outside of the body as well. Zinc is an absolute lovely one that you can also take. Zinc citrate, I would probably recommend. Apart from that, I might mention a couple more in a minute, but first I think I will probably move on. If you are suffering from severe anxiety, you need to prepare the body first with the hydration, make sure the electrolytes are in the right place, because if they're in the wrong place, that can trigger a panic attack. So if you're suffering with anxiety, please prepare the body in the right way. And then you may want to add some magnesium citrate and have some Epsom salt baths to help put magnesium in the right place in the body. And magnesium is a natural tranquilizer for the body. So that can be super helpful if you're feeling very anxious. I have a Facebook Live. No, I don't. I do have quite a few Facebook Lives, actually, if you want to have a look and hear more about what I've got to say about various things like this, immunity, managing anxiety. That's why I was mentioning it, because menopausal anxiety, inside my Facebook group, I've got a decent Facebook Live on that subject. But also one of my previous emails was about managing increasing anxiety in the coronavirus, if you want to know more and you're suffering with anxiety. Okay, so next. So this is really, I've been focusing a lot on the physical. And let me just check my notes. Vitamin D, if you're not getting out in the sun. You know, what has been lovely despite this awfulness of what's been going on, but since about the beginning of last week, we've had some sunny days that have actually lasted the whole day. So if you can get your face to the sun without any SPF on it, a good 20 minutes, get those sun's rays to your face, anywhere on your body as well, but your face will do, and get those vitamin D levels up. You can also take a vitamin D supplement if you wish. I'm hoping if this good weather lasts that we can manufacture it ourselves. Again, recent research has shown that propolis spray can be very good for the throat and the lungs. So again, if you're wanting to be protective with this virus outbreak, the propolis spray has been shown to be very helpful with any kinds of throat issues. Okay, so moving on to the emotional. So the impact of the emotional on the physical is huge. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that you allow your emotions, that you are accepting of how you feel from one moment to the next, and that you have some practices in place to help you manage anxiety and any emotions you're having that are difficult for you. So mindfulness practice is very good. Meditation practice is very good. I would really recommend you start every day as a ritual, which includes a large glass of water and a meditation, whether it's 5 minutes or 15 minutes, and starting the day with the right intention. Potentially a gratitude prayer might be helpful. Writing in a journal might be helpful, but really starting the day with a positive mindset and consistently doing practices day in, day out. As more and more of us are confined to our homes or being asked to stay at home, this is the most wonderful time for you to start bringing practices that you can do every single day that take you inwards, take you to a place of quietness and stillness where you can hear your inner voice, your inner wisdom, and start to create a different experience on this planet, a loving, joyful, happy experience. I know it's difficult right now, but I would strongly recommend you do that. Now, one of the reasons I recommend you do that, again, is that the research shows, more recent research is showing that our emotions affect our physical body. Not if we are able to acknowledge them and let them go, but the ones that we hold on to that eat away at us can cause prolonged stress, and prolonged stress has a physically dehydrating effect, which then feeds into the start of this video. So you create physical dehydration that affects the conditions inside the cell, that then makes it more likely or more possible that your immune system function will be depleted, that you won't feel as good, and that you'll get health issues. So emotional well-being is really important. It's not that we pretend that we're feeling okay, it's that we acknowledge our emotions from one moment to the next, and that we treat ourselves with the greatest love and self-care in those moments when we feel strong emotion. What else? If you want to read more about the impact of emotions on our cells, I would strongly recommend the book The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. Our thoughts create our emotions, and our emotions create a physical effect on the body. So anything like visualization, visualizing sunlight coming through the top of your head and filling your body, any aches and pains you have, if you focus on that area and imagine light inside your cells, showing gratitude for the cells, the physical cells in your body that work tirelessly every day for you and to support you, just becoming more and more mindful, more self-loving and more self-caring would be great. Then we've got also the spiritual element of the body, and this, what better time for us to start to engage in more spiritual practice. And spiritual practice helps us to connect with the divine, with the source within us, and this helps us to feel connected, feel the love, feel the support, connect to our wiser self, and help us to be the best we can be, particularly in this challenging time. So this is a great time, again, when we're confined or being asked to stay at home, is to start to find some practices, whether it's a YouTube video, meditation, whether it's putting on your favorite music and dancing around the room, whatever it is, whether it's having a phone call with a loved one. These are all spiritual practices. These are all opportunities to connect with spirit and to nurture yourself from within. You might want to burn incense. You know, there's hundreds and loads of things you can do. You know, you might be sitting there knitting and feeling spiritual. You know, everything's different for everybody. It's that sense of oneness. It's that sense of quietness. It's that sense of connection. It's that sense of okayness. You don't need anything. You don't need anything outside of yourself to feel better. You just feel good. You feel good. And that is a very spiritual, that's really connecting to the divine, which is fab. The other thing to be aware of is that disease is not a random event. And whenever we succumb to any kind of disease process, any kinds of symptoms, there is an opportunity for us to discover what that is trying to teach us. There's an opportunity for us to understand where it's come from, how it's manifested, what it's about, what it means for us, and what we can do about it. So, for example, if you suffer from migraines, we need to look at liver function, we need to look at bowel, we need to look at clearing the toxic load. So there's a whole story to unravel here. If you feel that this is something you're interested in doing, that this is your time now to take stock of your life and sort out your health once and for all, and start to dream your best life and start living your best life, then I would encourage you to schedule a call with me at fullernutrition.com/contact me. We can have a chat over the phone and see whether the way I work is what you would like and what would suit you. But really understanding your whole story and how you've got from where you are to where you are, or where you were to where you are now. So nothing is random. Even viral activity cannot be random. You have to have the conditions inside your body to have that viral activity. And one thing I would suggest to you is that if you have good boundaries, if your cell walls are strong and healthy, they require healthy fats. So you'll find that in chicken, fish and eggs. You'll also find that in cold pressed oils, but don't have too much of them because it's hard on liver. You will find it in some nuts and seeds, but some people's digestive system find nuts and seeds hard to handle, so do be aware of that. So good healthy fats. Lecithin is another one of my favorite supplements, actually, because it helps to emulsify fats in the liver. So healthy fats, and you will have a combination of healthy fats, good hydration, and decent protein will make up your cell walls. Now, if your cell walls are healthy and strong and robust, you're less likely to invite alien stuff inside your cell. So it's not just about having healthy boundaries physically through what you eat and drink, but also having healthy boundaries emotionally. So if we are succumbing to viruses, if we're succumbing to bacterial activity, if we're succumbing to a lot of fungal activity, etc., parasite activity, you want to be looking at your boundaries on an emotional level, spiritual level, your boundaries. You know, where are you not standing strong? Where are you not giving yourself self-care in the right way? Where are you not being boundaried? So where are you giving away your power? Maybe too much. So it's just being a little bit conscious that everything is connected. Nothing happens randomly. There's always a very good reason for it. If you need help understanding what that reason is and what's going on, then please do get in touch. I think that's really the main points I wanted to make about boosting your immune system and navigating your health during this particularly unusual time. I think it's a perfect opportunity, as we are required to quieten our lives, that we can start to do a big reset around, you know, what we want out of life, how we want to feel, what healthy habits we want to introduce and maintain long term. Yeah. Okay. I think I'm going to leave that one because that's talking about healthy habits and it's how you maintain them. So that's for another video. So it's been lovely to chat with you here. I hope you found it helpful, and that you'll get in touch if you feel that you want to take this a bit further. I don't think there's anything else I want to add at this stage. I think I've covered the main things. Please don't be scared. Don't worry. You are in charge. You can take care of yourself. You know how to do this. You've got this. The quieter you get within yourself, the more guidance you'll receive, and that will help you to make the right decisions, whether that's to take vitamin C, whether that's to go for a walk, whether that's to hook up with a friend, maybe virtually at the moment. Whatever it is, you are trusting your gut instinct, you're connecting with the wisdom of who you are. And I am simply here not to replace that, but to facilitate that further. And the one other thing I suppose I didn't mention is when we look at your story, we look at your family history, which does have an impact. We do have control over it, but we do need to know a little bit, or it does help to know a little bit about it. So we look at your family history, we look at diet, we look at the environment, we look at emotional trauma. So anything that you're holding on to from the past that you may not even be aware of, but it takes the actual act of sitting down and telling someone else about it that reminds you whether you are still holding on to an aspect of that or not, and that will affect you physically as well. So it's being aware of that. and then obviously looking at diet as well, which we've mostly done in this video today. Okay, lots of love to you all. I hope you're managing okay. Please do get in touch if you need help. I am very happy to support you the best that I can. And recently I've been giving extra time to clients and certainly speaking more on the phone, etc., to give you as much support as possible, so you are not alone. All the best for now. Bye-bye.